Hey guys, it's the Pammy back. This time I'm going to go over this beautiful sunshade that I just made, or windshield cover. I'll explain how I made it, what fabric I used, what measurements it took, how to keep it super secure so it won't fly away, and some mistakes that I made and learned from before I got to this project. So let's get started here, and this will just be a quick video, and we'll go through how to get a windshield cover that fits the transit windshield. Needless to say, if any of you have tried to find them online already made, it's nearly impossible to find one big enough to cover the whole windshield to block that sun. And if you do, like the last one that we bought, it disintegrated. I mean, it literally, I could wipe my finger across it and the black fabric just literally disintegrated. It was just such horrible quality. Okay, so I'll go through this list with you real quick. I used Sailrite's fabric, which is like a marine grade, UV protected, almost a rubbery fabric. It's kind of hard to explain, but you can see the item number if you go to sailrite.com at the bottom of this list. There's the item number for the fabric that I used. And there's an item number for the UV outdoor awning type UV protected thread that they sell also. I highly recommend you don't get this stuff from Amazon. Amazon stuff is going to fade like in a week. It's just, you can't find anything of this good a quality. Well, I mean, I guess you could, but Sailrite is where I went to find the really good fabric that should hold up for many seasons to come. And the first four items on this list, if you want to pause and do a screenshot, these are the other items that I purchased or had around the house that I used. I highly recommend also using the PVC pipes because they're what keep your windshield screen from slipping or sinking down your windshield. So the PVC pipes are just, everything here is really crucial. So go ahead and do a screenshot of this if you want. Pretty much self-explanatory. There's four things I'd like you to note really quickly from this photo. Number one, there are 3 earth magnets on the bottom of the windshield cover. There's one right there in the center, and then there's one on each end. The second item is, you'll notice that I used the webbing crossover to secure the windshield shade to the mirror. The third item is, you'll see at the top of the cover, there's a 13-inch hem, nice wide hem at the top. I'll get into that later as well. And then the fourth thing I want you to notice is the top right. I made flaps that go around the edge of the windshield into the interior of the van, and then the door shuts onto those flaps on each side. So between the pink straps and those flaps, and then the PVC pipes, of course, that are in the seam on each end, that's in the magnets, that's how everything stays really secure. It can get really windy here, like everywhere, and these I've made one like this before, and I'll get into that, out of the wrong material, but it never blew off, it never flapped, it never sunk, it did great. So those are 3 things that keep it in place: the interior, the flap that goes to the interior, the web strapping, and then the magnets. Okay, these are the 2 flaps that drop into the windows to the inside to hold the windscreen flat. I made these 12 inches by 22 inches. And what I'm going to do is, if I can find my little part here, I'm going to take a 8-inch piece of PVC pipe And I'm going to fold that over and sew a seam there, okay? And then that leaves you a couple inches on each end to be able to close that. And then this is going to drop inside the windows so somebody can't just pull it out and run with it. If they try to pull it out, this little piece of pipe is going to stop it from coming out the window that's closed onto this fabric. Then I'll sew the other end onto the windscreen itself, the shade screen. The length of the straps from the pole after they're sewn on all the way around to the interior is 13 inches. So this picture shows you how I sewed the flaps on. This is showing underneath. In this shot, you have a clear view on the far right of one of the flaps that's hanging in the window. It has that 8-inch piece of PVC pipe inside the seam, and that keeps it so nobody can steal my freaking windshield screen. You know what this world is like, anything for $1. So the PVC pipe keeps it so they can't tug that fabric out. They can't tug it through the window, of course, if the van is locked. Now, if they want to cut it with a pair of scissors and run, you know, whatever. But anyway, that's why I put that piece of PVC pipe in the flap. And it also could help it from blowing away if there was a torrentially high wind storm. I don't think it would ever come to that. You never know, I guess. And also on this photo, you can see see the rear view mirror? From that mirror up, there's a real dark strip of fabric on the other side of the windshield. On the outside, that dark strip of fabric is actually the excess fabric that was folded down and sewn flat, rather than, because see, the fabric comes in 60 inches tall. Well, the windshield is only 48, 50 inches tall, including the wiper well and out onto the hood, like I like to put my covers, so that you don't get debris or snow or whatever down in your windshield wiper well. So anyway, say it's 50 inches, 48, 50 inches. Well, the fabric is 10 inches. I mean, sorry, the fabric is 60 inches. So I just take and fold that extra fabric underneath, and so across the top of the windshield you have double duty, extra thick protection. It doesn't make sense to just cut, 10 inches off or however much you have left. So I just folded that over. I didn't hem across the top, but I did sew it at the bottom. And let's see, I sewed the 12-inch, I had a 13-inch flap. I'm sorry, I had a 13-inch hem across the top of the windshield and a 12 inches on the flap, so I just sewed the flaps right inside the measurement of that long hem that goes across the top, and it looks nice and even, looks really, really nice. This windshield shade is 47 inches taller. I should have made it either 48 or 50 inches taller, because I barely had enough room for that very center magnet, which, as you can see, it does cover the wiper well, but it would have been better to have an extra inch or 2 or 3. But you can see that extra layer of fabric across the top up there. That's the only place I sewed across the top. On the bottom, there's no hem. It's just the fabric just ends. It doesn't fray, because that's how it came from that's the factory end. The sides where you cut it, it'll fray just a little bit. I just ran a lighter along it to kind of seal off those frays. But there's no hem across the bottom, and I just took a piece of round fabric, put a magnet, flip this over, put your magnet on the bottom center, and then a piece of round fabric made out of this stuff, and sewed that around the magnet. So the magnet's permanently installed down there in the center on the hood. To sew the pipes into each end of the windshield shade, I simply took the fabric. This is where it's doubled over because see the hem, see the seam right there? So I simply just creased it about a 1/2 inch, laid my pipe on, rolled that over, and then I marked little tick marks all the way down that side to where it's going to be big enough to slide that pipe in after I sew it, because you can't sew it, of course, with the pipe in it. So you can see little tick marks all the way down the fabric. That's where I'll sew my pocket to slip the pipe into. So you have your 2 end pockets for your pipes, you have your seam across the top, you have your 2 flaps, and then you have your straps. Oh yeah, this fabric from Sailrite.com comes in a dozen colors. I recommend a light color for summertime. And again, the measurements are 66 inches wide, pole to pole, and then 48 to 50 inches tall, depending on how much you want over your hood. And then the last part to sew on is the straps that you see that are going around the mirror there. The only recommendation I can give you is sew them underneath. You don't want the ends of your strap showing on the top, but sew those straps underneath. Literally just get a piece of strap, hold it up under there, mark it where you're going to attach it, and then bring that strap all the way around your mirror. It's almost like a rubber band, but it's open on the end that is behind the pipe. Because when you hook it, I'll show you how to hook it, each end has to have a loop, the way I did it anyway. But you can kind of see that the bottom strap aims up and the top strap aims down, and then that makes it so the webbing goes around your mirror really nicely. And we'll look at that closer right now. This is where the 2 webbing strips connect in front of the mirrors. This is on the passenger side, and I just used a couple inch long bungee cord with a ball on it. You've seen those before maybe, to just run the bungee cord through the 2 loops and then hook it over the ball, and that keeps it super comfortably in place. And I actually, when I take the sunscreen off, the sunshade off, I take those bungees and I put them in the handle that's kind of, in front of the door lock, the handle where you pull your door shut. We just drop those little bungees right there so we never lose track of them. Then when we get home, we put the sunshade up and grab the bungees out of those little cup handle thingies, and that works well. I found these web straps to be the most challenging part of this whole shade, because you have to sew the webbing onto your shade before you fold and make your pockets for your pipe to slide through. That way you don't sew your sleeve for your PVC pipe shut. But you'll just have to go. My best advice is to just go nice and slow, place it, mark it on the fabric with a Sharpie or maybe pencil, whatever you want. I just use Sharpies. Mark your fabric right where those webbing strap things need to go underneath. And if you mark it, Then make sure also that you're aiming them in the right direction, and make sure that if you have one loop that's bigger than the other loop, like on this one, I believe, yeah, the top loop is a lot longer than the bottom loop. Make sure that you sew the longer loop on the top if that's how you do yours. It took me about 6 hours to do the whole thing, maybe 6 or 7 hours to make it from start to finish. Just nice and slowly. I just watched TV in the background and tried to concentrate and get her done. Absolutely worth the effort, worth the work, because now we have a beautiful sun screen that fits our entire windshield, made out of a really good fabric that, like I said, should last us for many, many seasons. Uh-oh, gotta go. And the fabric is kind of it's like a light fabric canvas. It's hard to explain. Um, but the point being that it's super okay to use your home sewing machine to sew this fabric. It's not too tough. And the thread that I recommended is also perfectly fine for a home sewing machine. Just make sure you use a heavy-duty sewing needle in your machine to run that heavy thread through. I didn't have any problems. Cut your swath and go up and down it a couple times and make sure your tension is set right. And once I got my tension set, I think I had it on 7 of 9 settings. I sewed everything at the same tension. The big spool, I set it below my sewing machine on the bottom of a laundry basket, and then just let that thread come up around my thread post, and just threaded the machine like I do with the regular thread. So the big roll of thread, that if you buy it, is not a problem at all to use on your home sewing machine. And Casper has a whole wardrobe of things to wear. These are our total blackout privacy shades. I don't have the khaki colored canvas that goes over the driver and passenger windows. So these snap 3 pieces together and gives us 100% privacy on the inside. These are Casper's solar screens. I go into great detail about these. You can actually see out from inside, but you can't see in from outside during the daytime. At nighttime you can see in if there's lights. If you go to our video number 13, it's called Solar Screens on Camper Windows. I explain everything about these. I made these this spring thinking that they were going to be great all summer, but what we learned is I bought a solar gun. I should have did a demonstration a temperature gun, and I found out that these, like a couple of people asked, they do absorb heat, which is why we went with our summer shades in the khaki color, a lighter color in really hot July, August, September weather. The rest of the year we can use these black solar screens, and they actually, because they do absorb some heat, would be good in chillier weather if you want some privacy. So anyway, I just wanted to show these to you guys. Again, it's our number 13 video, Solar Screens on Camper Windows. They are awesome. I'm also making those 2 rear side screens out of the khaki material. I bought extra fabric, khaki fabric, so that I can cover and shade those side windows as well, but I don't have those made yet. Casper is too large to fit into our garage, and we just keep our vehicles outdoors. This was a big mistake that we made. Heads up. See how much lower, by the way, this fabric goes down, almost touches the air vents on the hood. But this was made out of a Walmart tarp, a medium heavy-duty weight tarp. and it disintegrated in like 3 months. It literally just, you would grab the PVC pipe to pull it across the front of the windshield and your fingers would just go right through it. So don't use a tarp because it doesn't last. But what it did do was provided me with a wonderful template. It probably took me 3 days on this one here because I didn't know how to make one, how to do it, what I was going to do. Well, because I made this accident, it actually proved to be beneficial in providing me with a template to make Casper's khaki cover. So that was a mistake, and we do put ours on every single day, and the old tarp just couldn't take the UV rays. I did salvage the side webbing straps. I took those and took a hem ripper and ripped those out of the tarp fabric. I took the poles out and used those on the new cover, etc. So if you're on the fence about whether you want to do this or not, I say go for it. It might take you a little bit of money and it might take you a little bit of time, but there's always pride in doing your own projects, and this one is highly beneficial. It's going to pay off for us. Don't be afraid to buy a little bit better fabric, because again, you don't want to make one of these any more than you have to. So if you start out with good quality canvas fabric, then you won't have to make another one. I can't tell you how long this is going to last. I may do an update in the comments. If it does start to disintegrate down the road, I'll definitely let you know how long that took. But this is a marine grade fabric. They use it for like the awnings on top of fishing boats and pontoons and things. Awnings for houses. It's a really good quality fabric. So I say go for it. Spend a little bit of extra money and get a little bit extra good materials, and take your time. Do it a little bit each day as you have spare time. And we love the khaki on white. It just looks really sharp. Casper looks so handsome. Okay, well, thanks for watching. I hope this helped, and let me know if you have any questions. Okay, so our Ford Transits, I don't know if they vary according to anything, but mine is 66 inches across the windshield. And then from the top of the windshield, down the windshield, over the wiper wells, and onto the hood a couple of inches to block snow and leaves and debris out of the windshield wiper well, I measured 47 inches, okay? So we have 66 inches across, and then we have 47 inches from top to bottom. This is the back of the shade screen, okay? Now, since the windshield is 66 inches wide, I put an extra 3 inches on that end and an extra 3 inches on this end. That way I have room to fold it, hem it, put my tabs on. These hook around the mirrors. And then here I'll have a flap to go inside the door when you shut the door onto the flap. And so what this is going to look like, and I'll give you these measurements. These are the ones off my old tarp that disintegrated. But I measured in 1 inch. So what I'll do is I'll fold this over, and then I measured 2 inches. Remember, I had 3 inches. So there's 1 inch and there's 2 inches. So this folds, that meets that. Okay, those dots aren't perfectly lined up. And then what that makes is a nice tube to stick your PVC pipe into it. And then that PVC pipe holds it flat on both ends, holds the the shade screen flat onto the windshield. Once I sew this over, then I'll also sew across the top so that the PVC pipe can't fall out the top or the bottom, because I'll also sew across the bottom. But anyway, I'll be back when I get more done. Oh, and this point right here is 24 inches from the top, so that these, when they're flipped over, you can see one goes this way and then one goes this way, and these wrap around the mirror with a bungee. You'll see. Okay.